Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. All right, we're going to be starting in just a couple of minutes here. Boom, boom. All right, guys, welcome aboard. We're going to be starting in just about 5 more minutes. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. We'll be starting in just about 5 more minutes. While you guys are coming in, let me know, where are you watching from? Where are you watching from right now? Where are you watching from as you're coming in? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe, all right? Because we share great information. We share good information with you guys all the time. So make sure that you subscribe. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe right now. Like, comment, share. And we will be starting in just a few moments. I actually have to take that down. That record up there is not doing good. That's okay. As Jim Rohn says, don't major in minor things. So we're not going to major in minor things. All right. So we will be starting in just a few moments here. All right. And as you're coming in, if you're watching on YouTube, let us know where you're watching from, what city, what state, what country you're watching from. All right. We'll be starting in just a few moments here. So go ahead, put in the chat box right now. What is your biggest goal for 2023? What's your biggest goal for this year? Boom, 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 boom. Great morning, everyone. Great morning, great day, great afternoon. Good to see lots of familiar faces coming in. Lots of great faces here. How was everyone's weekend? Rashawn, I see you it looks like you're driving, right, Rashawn? All right, Cheryl, be careful, Rashawn. Jeff, see Jeff coming in. Nancy Weatherford, Michelle Run over in LA. Megan Bowden, how was your weekend, Megan? I see the hand wave over there. Very cool, very cool. We got Cheryl Stewart, Chris Bowden, Krista Oken, Darlene, Christina Curry. All right, good. How was your birthday? Oh, Deborah, my birthday was amazing. I got an extra special surprise for my birthday, and I'm going to tell you guys about it in just a couple of minutes. So thank you for asking about that. I had a very cool birthday. So it was great. It was a great weekend too. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so let me know we're live streaming to YouTube as well. I want to start doing these on YouTube more and more, because I think that if we start broadcasting to YouTube, it will also make it easier for you guys as well, right? We'll give you a YouTube link, and you should be able to join us using the same link every single time, just as you are on Zoom. And then you'll have options. You'll be able to join us on YouTube Live. You'll also be able to join us on Zoom Live. All right, so this weekend, so my birthday was Friday, January 20th, right? I'm a Capricorn Aquarius. They call it, I just found this out the other day, last week, it's like Capricorn cusp. So it's like when you're on the cusp of having you're on the cusp of your birthday being at the end of one sign and the very beginning of the other sign. So I always felt like I was a Capricorn, but I always felt like I also have some Aquarius tendencies, right? So I would always play around and say I'm a Capricorn Aquarius, and there we go. Jane says I'm a cusp Gemini Cancer. There you go. Christine says I'm a cusp too. Christine, what sign? People born on the cusp of any 2 signs is a sign of higher intelligence. Barb, I will take that. Barb, I'll take that 100%. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Christine says March 19th. Very cool. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, in the comments, let me know if you're a cusp baby, right? If you're born on the cusp of, or in between two signs. So the other thing is, Aaron says, me too. I'm a Libra Scorpio. Very cool. Denise, October 19th. Jim Stokes, January 28th. Solid Aquarius. Cosmos is my opposite. Who here is a Capricorn or Aquarius? Put it in the chat box or in the comments box. All right, Megan, I saw that. No wonder I like you so much. Right? So we're totally in alignment right there. Who else is a Capricorn or Aquarius? Anyone else? Let me know if there's anyone else that's here. And do you guys see me right now, or do you see something else? Let me know if you see me or do you see something else on your screen. Michelle, do you see me or do you, Michelle runs, or do you see? Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. Perfect. All right, so let's see. Aquarius, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Aquarius and Libra, get on well. Yeah, very cool. So I want to talk about a couple of things. So on Friday, my birthday, my oldest daughter, Maya, gave birth to my second granddaughter. So I now have a birthday twin in the family. Her name is Mayella. You got to pray for me because I tried to get my daughter to name her a simple name, but she went with Mayella. So it's spelled Miaelle. My daughter's middle name is Elena, so she tried to get her middle name in there. Her name is Maya Elena Cohen. So we have Mayella. Let me see if I can pull up a picture and show you guys here. I think that maybe I'll be able to show you. Let's see here. So this is what she looks like here. Let's see if I can get this thing going. So can you guys see that? Very cool. Thank you, Megan. Megan's like my navigator right there, like, with the thumbs up. So that's her right there. Let's see if I have another picture. And it was just a really cool birthday. Like we didn't do it. Here I am FaceTiming with my daughter here. She's got this mean little, she was born a little bit. So they're kind of tube feeding her because she was born a little bit underweight. She was born at, got all these pop-ups that are coming in. She was born at 3.10 ounces. And so they were tube feeding her until she got to 4 pounds. Right. So until she got to 4 pounds. Right. So that was very cool for me. That was like, I'm never going to forget that now. Right. Obviously, because we share the same birthday. And I think she'll come out a pretty cool person being on Capricorn Aquarius cusp there. So Friday we talked about, and as you notice, Caroline is not here. So Caroline is actually traveling to London right now. She's living her best life. Traveling to London. She's going in looking at, I think, a place she's looking to move towards London because right now she lives on the countryside, if I remember correctly. So she's out scouting places to move to possibly in London. So on Friday, we talked about one thing to suspend your belief on. We kind of talked about one thing to suspend your belief on. And I gave you the example of, what is something that you could suspend your belief on in regards to one of your personal goals or in regards to a business goal, right? And we talked about the movie Face Off and how when we go in and we see a movie, we're able to suspend our belief for that 1 hour, that 2 hour, that 3 hour period. And then we have no problem with doing that. But then as soon as we get back to reality, it's tough for us to suspend our belief when it comes to our own personal goals, business goals as well. So I challenge you guys to think about one thing that you've had a problem with suspending your belief on, right? And how are you going to go in and use that understanding to push forward in 2023? So I want to kind of open up the mic really quickly and ask you guys to raise your hand if there's anyone who wants to come on and talk about this suspended belief activity that you've kind of practiced over the weekend. For me, it was understanding that, initially I used to be deathly afraid of talking in front of people, like whether it was virtually like this, whether it was on stage. As I shared with you guys, I always felt like I would spontaneously combust. And I came to the realization that the thing that we most kind of resent or are afraid of is the thing that we really need to tackle and go head on with, because we are probably pretty good at it. If we allow ourselves to get over that fear, and Christine, I see your hands up. Very cool. Jane Johnson, very cool. I'm going to get to you guys in a second. But the thing that we probably most resent or are afraid of, if we only gave ourselves the courage and got over that fear, we're probably pretty good at it. I think that I'm pretty good at speaking in public. Could I get better? Absolutely, 100%. But I think I'm pretty good at it. But the thing is, for many years, I allowed the fear to really like overcome me to the point where I wouldn't even try. And if you never know what your talents are unless you're open to trying, right? So suspending your belief as to what it is that you think. And the first couple of times that you try, of course, you're going to fall flat on your face. I talked about when I spoke in Thailand in front of 5,000 people, and I didn't have my slides downloaded. I had them in the ether, right? I had them on Google Docs, and I just fell flat on my face initially. So that first 5 or 10 minutes was terrifying for me. I felt like I was going to spontaneously combust. Here I am in a foreign land, speaking in front of 5,000 people that didn't really speak English. I had a translator, so that made it even more awkward. But then after I got over that, it was fine, right? So I'm going to bring up Christine. I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic. And Christine, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, very cool, very cool. What's that one thing that you are going to suspend your belief on, that you're going to go in and start practicing and hitting this thing hard?
Getting my husband to come on board with me with doing online business, because he's absolutely against it. And he had me convinced that we couldn't. He convinced me once before that he wouldn't take me to Paris. And
that
now,
he wouldn't say that again, that he wouldn't take you to Paris?
Yeah. And now in December we're booked. So if I can get him to do that, then I can get him to come on board for the business. So yeah, I'm determined. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about some ways that you can do that in just a minute. So you coming on first and talking about that is very timely. It's just meant to be.
Thank you. God's good.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Very cool. So Christine is going to suspend her belief about getting her husband on to, on board with understanding that this thing is real and it's something that's very doable. And it is a battle sometimes, Christine. I'll tell you, I had been in business for well over 10 years before my mom even understood what I did. Like before she even got the concept of being able to sell something that was intangible. It wasn't a physical book or anything like that, and people paying you for it, right? She just thought it was I have no idea what she thought it was, right? She just didn't understand. It took me a minute to get my wife on board. So now my wife is totally a believer. It took a minute for me to get her on board. And I used to get so frustrated because sometimes we get frustrated because we want people we see our dreams so vividly and we're so passionate and enthusiastic about them. And when we share stuff with other people and they don't show that same enthusiasm, and you can look in their face, then it creates this frustration. And then what happens is I think it creates a little bit of resentment as well. And it creates all of these different emotions. And so I've been there. All right. So I'm going to let's bring on Robert, my new best buddy here, Robert. Robert, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and then Jane Johnson will bring you on as well. So Robert, what's that one thing that you're going to suspend your belief on?
Well, I'm going to suspend my belief on the fact that I can stay focused and actually go through the steps step by step and get through this in an organized way and not jump around all over the place.
Very cool.
Which is my tendency to do. And I'm fighting that every day. I just trying to staying on track and not getting ahead of myself or trying to do this and trying to do that. Part of it's the shiny object syndrome. Part of it's just my brain just firing on too many cylinders at once, wanting to do too much at once.
Yeah. And you know what? I think the first step, and you know this, right, is admitting it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like not trying to fool ourselves and just admitting it. For me, one of the things that I've gotten better at fighting shiny object syndrome. But everyone suffers from it. So for me, there was a period where I would consistently remind myself to stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. I would write it down on little note cards. I don't know if you guys remember or saw, or any of you guys have like the green stay focused Kindle Castro shirts. I created those for myself because I needed to consistently see it, like stay focused, stay focused. When I would post on, and even to this day, sometimes on Facebook or on social media, I would end the post with hashtag stay focused because I needed to see it over and over and over and over again. So, Robert, that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about at the end of this as well. So your message is super timely as well. So suspending that belief. Everyone has that, right? The shiny object syndrome. I'll tell you, I woke up this morning, I think at about 3:45 this morning to use the bathroom. And I couldn't get back to freaking sleep. I go back to bed and I just got all of these ideas during my head. And I'm like, I'm trying to turn them off because I know that I'm not going to go back to sleep if I have all of these ideas. I'm trying everything in the book. I start meditating, which usually will put me to sleep. I actually go to sleep at night meditating because it puts me to sleep like this. And then I make the mistake of picking up my phone and I'm just like, you know what? I just got to get these ideas out of my head. So I start putting them in my phone because I know that if I didn't, when I woke up, I wouldn't remember them. I didn't want to turn on the light and write them down on the pad because then my wife would wake up and then I got a whole nother problem to deal with. So everyone suffers from it. And I think the key is doing exactly what you are doing, and that is admitting it.
I went through almost exactly the same thing. I woke up at 3 o'clock and my head's just, full of ideas and I was up for 2.5, 3 hours before I went back to sleep because I just couldn't settle down again in the middle of the night. And this happens to me regularly.
You see that?
It just drives me crazy. Then in the middle of the day, my head's falling on my computer.
I told my wife the same thing. I said, you know what? I'm probably going to have to take a nap at around 1 or 2 o'clock or so because I'm going to be just. So, Robert, maybe you're to blame for it. Maybe you were in my head, man. I was up all night because of you. We were twins. We were night owl twins there. So
we should be texting each other at 3 o'clock and just get the whole thing going,
Just get it done, right? So that's what we need. I appreciate you, Rob. Let's see. Let's bring up Jane Johnson. Jane, I'm going to bring you up really quickly, and then I'm going to go into the rest of the message for today. So, Jane, you should be unmuted.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and good morning, Ty. Sorry, my camera's really naff. I just wanted to say this whole thing about suspending disbelief. I've got a body that is really crumbling and falling to bits, but I use, for me, it's the fact that my etheric body, my inner body, my not quite there, the blueprint body that was in my original cells that my parents gave me, that is perfect, and it's that way for every one of us. But it sort of, degenerates in what we call the real world. But that blueprint is always the one that if we put the energy into it, it can override all that, just like you're doing, Ty. Because what you're doing is actually envisioning the perfect body that you were supposed to have, and you are imposing that on top of the difficulties and frailties. And yeah, you go through so much pain, but you've outlived 10 times, I don't know, so much of what people so-called projected because of this fixing on that. This is how it should be. I think every one of us here can just fixate on how we are supposed to be, how we were originally planned, the blueprint the architect made for us in our original cells, and that blueprint is in every single cell of our body. So I believe that we can reverse. We just have to suspend for a moment the disbelief, which is the only thing stopping it from happening. And that applies to our work, applies to our goals, applies to our physical health, our spiritual health. And I wish everybody here a lovely day, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. And you're so right? It applies to, I'm going to mute you back out. It applies to everything. Like this stuff, this goal setting stuff, this mindset stuff, it applies to your health. It applies to your relationships. It applies to your business. It applies to your mindset. It applies to we just tend to forget we tend to forget because we put so much emphasis on the business and the other side of it, right? But we tend to forget, like when we have other issues in our life, that we can apply the same method to those other issues there. So it's one of the things. So if you don't forget that, then I think you'll do very, very well in life. And here's the thing: at any moment, you could change. Like one of the best things that I love hearing Jim Rohn say is that any moment you could totally revolutionize your entire life. At any moment, at any age, at any standpoint, at any difficulty, you can totally change things. Right. So what I want to do is I want to kind of shift gears really quickly, because I know we're 20 minutes into it, and I don't want to make this a long call for you guys today. But I want to share something with you. As you guys know, I recently had surgery, right? So I went in, had surgery. There was a mass on my right kidney that was found. And did I tell you guys the whole story about how I found out about this? I think I did. I told you that I was feeling a little bit tired earlier in the year, back in 2022. And I went to my doctor and he said, you know, the reason why you're feeling tired every once in a while is because you're getting older. And I'm like, Doc, I know I'm getting older, but that's not the answer that I want to hear, right? I want to get a complete blood work done. And he was a little bit hesitant. And I kind of said, nope, I need to get this thing done. We ended up getting it done, only to find out that my lisinopril levels were higher in my kidneys. They had gotten higher over the years. They had been getting higher for a while. I then went in to get a couple of scans and things like that to find out that I had this mass on my right kidney that was growing, right? There were three things that I could have done with it. I could have either let it grow and kind of watch it for a while, which I wasn't comfortable with. I could have went in and had it frozen, right? There's a technique that they use to allow it to freeze it, or I could have went in and had it kind of cut out. And of course, I could have had it biopsied, right? But if I would have had it biopsied and then we found out that it was cancerous, I still would have had to do something about it. So I ended up choosing to have it cut out. So I went under surgery, went to have the surgery done. And then I got the results back and we found out that it was indeed cancerous. So it was cancerous. Now, here's the crazy part. This thing had been growing in me for 5 years. 5 years. Now, imagine if I had never gone to the doctor, right? And if I was, the first thing is being totally aware of your body, like knowing what's normal for you. I knew that, hey, at 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I shouldn't be feeling tired. Yes, I'm getting older, but that's never been my MO, right? So knowing your body and then being adamant about it. So I go through the surgery, doctors say, hey, it's going to take you about 6 weeks to recover. As I'm going into the surgery, all while I was recovering, and I'm still recovering now because I'm just about 10 days into it or so. Guess what was never a concern for me? You guys, can you put in the chat box, what do you think was never a concern for me? Like never even crossed my mind. What do you think? I see, let's see. Dying? No, dying was a concern for me. Somebody said, yes, absolutely. For some reason, I was totally afraid this time for a while. Until I had a talk with someone. I had a talk with Jawar, actually Coach Jawar. Him and I kind of talked about some things. So I'm not going to lie. Yes, not coming back was a concern of mine. And for some reason, it had never been a concern of mine. I've had 2 hip replacements in my life, 2 total right hip replacements. And I've never had a concern before. But for me, what was not a concern was the financial side of it. It wasn't a concern as to what are the medical bills going to look like? Are we going to be able to continue to pay our mortgages on our properties? Is my wife going to be able to buy groceries? My son Tyler's college tuition, is that still going to be taken care of? My daughter's dance and ballet, whatever the hell she's got going on over there. I'm still trying to figure that out. Is that going to, right? So I was able to not be stressed going into it. I was also able not to be stressed about explaining to a supervisor or a boss or an employer why I needed to rest for 6 weeks or for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. All of that stuff can create anxiety, can create stress. Do you agree? Like, yes or no? Like if you're already under a medical condition and you're going in to have surgical procedure done. But and we may not even think about this stuff sometimes, but the added stresses of, man, how am I going to continue to make sure that the income comes in? How am I going to make sure that the bills get paid, right? How am I going to make sure that the car payments or whatever? For this reason, I'm asking you guys to make sure that you really go hard on creating your digital publishing businesses. I don't care whatever types of businesses you guys have. I don't care if you learn it from me or if you learn it from someone else. Learn this stuff and put it in place. Make sure you do it. And here's the other thing. Don't just, how many people have ever heard that the wealthy have multiple streams of income? Have you guys ever heard that? How many streams of income on average have you heard? How many streams of income on average have you guys heard? Just put it into the chat box. Somebody says, who was that? Who said that? Oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that. Kari says, I lost a 34-year-old friend a year ago because he didn't want to go to a doctor due to cost. 34 years old. He could have been 134 years old. That should never be someone's reason for not going, right? So 7 streams, 3 to 7, 10 plus 7. I'm telling you guys that's the old way of doing it. 7 or 10, not at all. You want hundreds. And that's probably going to shock you. You want hundreds of streams of income. Hundreds. 7 to 10 was when we were doing things the traditional way. Maybe real estate took a whole lot of money, right, to get started. A lot of skill, a lot of contacts. Maybe businesses that were traditional took a lot of money to go in and maybe start a franchise, a lot of education. We're publishing digital content now. I have hundreds of ebooks that I've published over the years, hundreds of digital courses and content that have now paid for the real estate, right? So we can go in and we can buy millions of dollars worth of real estate now that add on in a traditional way. Other businesses that I've been able to invest in, but none of that was possible without the digital stuff. The digital stuff allows you to go in and when I say hundreds, please don't get scared by that. Because it took me maybe, I want to say 4 or 5 years before I truly understood that I should have hundreds. Because I had a few initially, then I ramped up to dozens, and then I realized how easy it was to get the dozens in place, the few in place, and then I started to get to the point of having hundreds. And I'm going to tell you something. It is easier to have hundreds of streams of digital income than it is to have 2 or 3. It's easier to have hundreds than it is to have 4 or 5 or 6. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that it's easier to have hundreds of streams of digital income than it is to have just a couple of them? What Christine says, because they know you? Yes. Barb hit it right on the head. Because now you can have a system, you can hire people. Once you start to have a few and then a couple of dozen, you reinvest a significant amount of that money back into your business. The best thing that I've ever done is reinvesting money back into my digital businesses. Because now you can then go and you put together a system, and then you can hire other people to help run that system. So you guys may have heard me say maybe about a month ago, a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember the last time, but I physically went into my Kindle, my KDP account, and uploaded a book. It's been maybe about 4 or 5 years now since I have physically done it. Right? Because now I have the system. So I'm just giving you these seeds right now, something for you guys to think about. Now, of course, don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed with this because it is going to take time, right? You first have to get the 1 before you can get to the dozen, then you can get to the 100, right? But as you understand the process of publishing 1 or 2 or 3, now, as I said earlier, it gets easier to publish dozens and hundreds. And you look at each one as a separate income stream. So rich folks now, if you look at it, they have multiple streams of income. And it's not just the 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, 10. All right. That's how you put yourself in a position where you can live worry-free about, at least on the financial side of things. Right. There's going to be other stresses that might come into play, but at least on the financial side of things. Now, here's the thing. Here's how you get to that. I want to share something with you. What do you think is the biggest thing that's keeping you from publishing maybe your first book or your 10th book outside of money? Because money is not even a factor typically, even now. Like when I first published my first book on Lulu, I didn't really have the money to put into it. So I had to get really creative with it. But what do you think is the biggest distraction for you? Put it into the chat box or in the comments box if you're watching on YouTube. So fear, help with the step-by-step. In my case, I'm trying to do too much at once. Let's see what else. Obstacles, not knowing how to get started, shiny object syndrome. So all of these are distractions, right? So typically there's distractions that keep all of us from getting to where we want to be. And I kind of posted about this on Facebook yesterday, and I want to share this post with you guys. I want to write something down really quickly. And I went back and I looked at the periods in life where I had the most momentum. The periods in life when I had the most momentum, and I'm talking about going from like 0 to like 100 really quickly, was when I recognized some of these distractions. I'm going to share some distractions with you guys. And these are the distractions that I had to overcome. Let me share my screen and let me know when you can. Let's see. I think this should be it. Let me know if you guys can see my screen here. Give me a head nod or something. You should be able to. Okay, awesome. So this is a post that I put up on Facebook. This was last night. And last night I was listening to a conversation between someone that's made over 100 million and someone that has made about $3 billion. And they were talking about pivotal points in their life that kind of helped them to make a shift. And as they were talking, I heard a lot of similarities between some of the things that also allowed me to take a shift. Things that were distractions. And I'm going to enlarge this a little bit so that you guys can see these. So what distractions are you willing to give up this year in order to make next year better than last year? And I'm going to ask you guys to be really transparent in this. Very, very transparent in admitting which of these distractions you need to get rid of. And when I say get rid of, I'm not talking about totally becoming a monk. Like, I'm not talking about having no fun at all. Because sometimes when we talk about this stuff, people think that you're talking about having no fun at all. What I am talking about is making sure that you recognize the things that are taking time from you and that are a distraction, and you getting rid of them for at least a 2-year period. When I had the biggest shift in my life, it was for this 2-year period. And I wasn't even being intentional with it. I didn't know how long. My grandmother said something to me. She said, baby, in her old Southern way of saying it, baby, you don't have to do something forever. You just have to do it until you get the results that you're after. So these are things that, and some of these things I cut out, and I still don't practice to this day. So we're going to, and some of them I never did. So television. Are you willing to get rid of a distraction of television? Right? So for me, there was a point where, man, I loved watching television. Now I can't tell you what's on, what shows are on. It's not worth it. I can't tell you about what housewives are in Atlanta or Orange County or wherever they're at, right? They already have their careers. I need to work on mine. I can't tell you about any of the stats that are out there hanging out. Are you willing to get rid of that? Overspending. Overspending becomes a distraction. How does it become a distraction? Because, and I talk about this, I talked about this with Marty and Josh. I talk about this with a lot of people that I see that are starting to do well financially. and then they fall into what's known as lifestyle creep. Is anyone familiar with that term, lifestyle creep? And you guys will see this as your business starts to grow. What happens is when you start to experience lifestyle creep, you're making more money. Now you go out to eat, and you used to get this steak. Now you're getting this steak. You used to drive this car. Now you're driving this car. You used to be okay with traveling here. Now you're going here. Lifestyle creep. Now you start going out shopping a little bit more. You might start looking at eBay or Amazon a little bit more. And what happens is, believe it or not, those things become distractions. The more things that you have to keep up with, that you have to attribute time to, the more you're taking away from the thing that initially got you to a point where you're now able to afford these things. Does that make sense? It happened to me. I started to make more money, and luckily for me, it happened very early on. Started to get distracted by cars and eating out at better places and traveling more. And then what happens is that, like I said, the thing that got you to this point, you're now not paying enough attention to it. So what happens? It's just like working out. You work out, you start to build up the muscles, and then you stop working out, your muscles atrophy, right? So the same thing, like this is a big one, the lifestyle creep. So I'm asking you guys to be, and I see it happens to so many people unless they're aware of it. Because you're like, you want to justify, you put in the hard work and you're like, hey, I'm making more money. Well, aren't I supposed to go in and treat myself? And the answer is yes, you are, but with discipline. All right, so that you don't get past where you need to be. The other thing, so we just talked about this, overcoming shiny object syndrome. I got a misspelling in here. I need to go and fix that. But overcoming shiny object syndrome and jumping from one thing to the next without dedicating enough time and energy to the last thing. This is a big one right here as well. And again, we just talked about this. Bob had talked about this. Like we all kind of suffer from this to a degree. I talked about how last night I had all of these ideas that were coming to me, right? Now, if I don't be in control of how I approach those ideas, then some of them could probably take me, they can derail me and they can take me off track. Does that make sense? Like they can derail me. Now, it doesn't mean that I totally throw them out the window. I can make note of them. And then when I have the ability, the time and the resources to get to them, then I can go and do that. Smoking. This is a big one right here too. Smoking cigarettes, smoking marijuana. This is a big distraction right here for people. It goes right up here with drinking. Right? So I saw my mom smoke for most of her life. I think she said she started smoking when she was 20 or maybe in her late teens. And then she smoked all the way until she was in her 60s. So she smoked for 40 something years. And no judgment against anyone on any of this stuff, but I do think that if you put a lot of attention into one thing, what does that mean? You're taking attention from the other thing. So you have to be careful as to where you want your attention to go to, right? If it's smoking marijuana, I don't believe that somebody who's using drugs of any type can outperform someone who's not. This is me. I want to be at the best mentally, creatively that I can. So I don't think that if you're taking any type of illegal drugs, well, that sounds tricky, right? Because marijuana is legal in some places now, right? But I just don't think that if there's anything, and I know people say, hey, it makes them more creative. I just don't feel that. I don't get it. And again, no judgment, right? I'm just telling you what works for me. Watching the games. So this goes right in alignment with watching TV, right? So watching the games. I have buddies of mine that can watch on Saturdays and Sundays. They can sit and they can watch the games all day. And then on Monday, they're complaining about the Bills. That just doesn't balance out. right? Spending, and again, no judgment, but for me, it just doesn't work. I never got the idea of watching other people go for their dreams, live their careers, make their money. They put in these same people who probably won't put in that same amount of time because they know that it will be a sacrifice to their careers, right? So you got to be very careful with that type of stuff. Here's another big one, trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? So looking at other people and social media can be huge for this because I think everything that you see on social media is fake to a degree. Seeing someone else being really living a life that you're trying to keep up with, you can use it as motivation, but I think when it gets past that, then it becomes a problem. Reading nonfiction for amusement purposes instead of reading fiction to learn. Right? So listening to podcasts, reading content that can help to improve you, staying up later than you should. This one right here is for me. I'm writing this one out for me because I've learned that if I can get to bed earlier, then in the morning, I'm a lot more productive. I'm just a lot sharper. Staying in bed longer than you should, right? So it could be either one of these, or it could be both of them. Listening to the radio for entertainment. This is something that I'm talking to my son Tyler with right now, right? Getting in the car and turning on the radio, especially if you're listening to destructive music. So he likes to listen to hip hop. And there's most hip hop music that's played today, unfortunately, there's nothing of value to it. I hate sounding like my father now on this one. But the reality of it is, if you're listening to something that's destructive over and over and over and over and over and over again, guess what happens? You start to learn that stuff over and over and over and over again, and it becomes your reality. So instead of listening to a podcast or audiobook to be educated, here's another one, unnecessarily talking on the phone. Now you're like, Ty, Jesus, I can't have any fun time. Like, really? And I'm not saying that you have to kill all of this stuff, but I am telling you to be mindful of it. Spending too much time on Facebook, right? Are you willing to give up the distraction of being who you currently are so that you can grow into who God gave you the ability to truly become? This is a big one right here too. I talk about how, for all the way up into my 20s, I lived a certain lifestyle, which was a distraction. And had I not been willing to give up that version of Ty, I could not have been the version I am now and who I will be in the future. Right? So giving up something, spending too much time on TikTok, spending too much time on Instagram, just social media in general, watching too many YouTube videos, because this can give you paralysis as well. Trying to figure it out, right? Distracted with eating the wrong foods that don't give you the energy and positive elements needed to keep moving forward. Entertainment in exchange for self-improvement. This is a big one here too. It's easier to get a group of people to a concert than it is to a seminar. Right? It's easier to get someone to whatever it is, Jay-Z and Beyonce concert than it is to get them to a seminar about health or about personal development or about business. Why is that? Even if the concert costs significantly more than the seminar. Spending too much time with people that are not making positive deposits into your life. We all have those people, right? That they just come in and you feel the energy and they kind of drain the room. This is one of the best things that I have ever done. And that is distancing myself to a degree, right? Because if it's family members, sometimes it's kind of tricky, but to a degree with people that were always the complainers, the whiners, that were the energy dreamers. The other thing is spending too much time with people that gossip about other people. Because if they're gossiping about others when they're with you, they're probably gossiping about you when they're with others. Spending too much time with people that, this should say complain about, this is what happens when you try to write a post as you're going to see. That complain about being broke, sick, or whatever. Right? Not being, empathetic, but also not letting them drain you with what they're complaining about. Most importantly, are you willing to stop being comfortable with where you are right now? This is a big one right here too. For a long time, I was comfortable with just getting by, comfortable with just paying the bills, comfortable with just everything, comfortable with my health, comfortable with, all right, well, this month I didn't go into the hospital, I'm okay. And then instead changing that and saying, okay, well, what can I do so that I don't go into a crisis for an entire year? Instead of not going into a crisis for 2 weeks, right? So shifting that, what can I do so that now, instead of being someone with sickle cell anemia, where the life expectancy is, 20, 30 years old, I'm someone with sickle cell anemia, where the life expectancy is way past that, double that, triple that, and being able to be healthy, wealthy, and wise so that my children and my grandchildren can benefit from me being around them and I can benefit from being around them in full capacity. So not being comfortable with things, not being comfortable with just being able to pay the bills. Sugar, I'm talking to myself again with this one. It's a major distraction, right? To your focus, your discipline, your energy, your overall health. The best thing that Caroline said, and I think it was someone else here, who said, so I like to drink tea. And in my tea, I was putting both honey and sugar. And I shared that with you guys, and you guys just gave me the blowback. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not the best thing. So for now, over a month now, I've just been using honey. Best thing ever. Right? So thank you guys for that. Cosmos, I saw you judging me over there, shaking your head. So if we're paying attention to our lives, we'll recognize these defining moments. The challenge this is a quote by Robin Sharma. He says, if we're paying attention to our lives, we'll recognize those defining moments. But challenge for so many of us is that we are so deep into daily distractions and being busy that we miss out on those moments and opportunities that, if jumped on, would get our careers and our personal lives to a whole new level of wow. These distractions, and there's so many others that keep us from getting our personal lives and our careers, our businesses to where they need to be, to a point where you're just inspiring to other people. You're inspiring to yourself, but you're also inspiring to other people. And I think that's when it's okay to benefit from yourself, but when you're able to literally inspire other people to become the better version of themselves, I think that's the true beauty of it. What are some other distractions here that you guys want to share? I'm going to stop sharing here. What are some of the other distractions that I didn't have listed? What else would you say is a major distraction right now for you guys? I mean, we talked about shiny object syndrome, right? Abigail says you listed all of mine. Yeah, Abigail. And again, a lot of those were just mine. Lost my screen. I just stopped sharing. Jane, right? So we're still in the early stages of 2023, right? We're just at today's date is January 23rd. So we're just 23 days into the year. Think about that. Carly says, feeling obligated to family to put their needs first. That's a big one right there. That is a huge one right there, to be honest with you, because sometimes we'll feel so obligated to other people that are not on board with us. I was talking about who was it? It was Christine, who was talking about trying to get her husband on board, right? I was talking about in the early stages, my wife wasn't on board and I felt obligated to I got a buddy of mine who's going through this right now, brilliant guy. I felt obligated to kind of bend to her needs more and not put the effort that I needed to put into my dreams, because at that point, she didn't believe in my dreams. Sometimes you'll feel obligated to not shine as much as you should because you don't want to have someone else feel less than. And that's part of being human, right? But I also think we do ourselves a disservice when we dumb down, when we dim our light. And I did that for many years. Many years I would do that. I would downplay my ability to go on vacation or downplay how well my business was doing because I didn't want other people to feel bad. I wouldn't even talk about certain things. Right? Robert says, can you post the video? Or are you talking about the video, or are you talking about the post that I put on Facebook, Robert? It'll be on YouTube, so you can definitely go in and grab it. Right? So, I mean, sometimes we'll have people in our lives that, if we're not careful, we'll stifle our efforts because we're trying to please those people. I have a brother of mine who, for many, many years, I would not talk about business so much because he didn't get it. And I felt a little bit of animosity anytime I did talk about business, or if others came in and congratulated me on things. So you got to be very careful with that as well. There's a balance there, right? It's a balance. How do you get other people on board when they're not ready to get on board, right? So hopefully this has helped you guys out right now. I wanted to really talk about, as we're nearing the end of January, as we start to forget about our goals, as we start to forget about our New Year's resolutions, right? I want to remind you that we're only 23 days in. Like, we're only 23 days into the new year. That's why Caroline and I are doing this DWCC challenge. Like, it's take place actually next week. So how many people are registered for that? So we're doing this challenge because we want to make sure, I saw your hand go up, Christine. I saw a few other people. Actually, let me see who here is registered for the Digital Wealth Creation Challenge. Because what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to go in and allow you guys to have something that's going to help you to continue the momentum. Like with Kindle Cash Flow Live, we gave you some momentum coming into the very beginning of January. But then it's easy. It's like going to the gym. At the very beginning, right? You go to the gym, you can eat healthier at the very beginning of the year, become more aware, but just literally 2 or 3 weeks into it, we start to fall off, right? We start to forget about all of this stuff, unless we have reminders. So that's why this entire year I've sat and I've looked at the calendar and we're strategically laying out events that can help you. We have an event almost month to month so that we can help keep you guys on track, help keep you focused, right? Because I know that for myself, how difficult it was, especially like if you're the only person in your household. And in most cases, 99.9% of the times, you probably are the only person in your household that is remotely even interested in digital marketing or starting an online business, right? For me, it had been for a very long time. And even still, depending on the days, my kids and how they're acting, right? So we need these constant reminders. We need these constant pieces of upliftment. We need constant motivation. The motivation is what helps us to continue going. We need constant reminders to set goals. We need constant reminders of how other people are doing. Do you guys get motivated by seeing other people taking action and doing things, right? So we need this. So this is where we're at. If you have not registered for the DWCC, all right, for the Digital Wealth Creation Challenge, you can do so by going to, I'm going to type it in here. Let's see. So it's going to be www.tycohen.com/DWCC. And it doesn't cost anything to register for this. So you can register for free. So tycohen.com/DWCC. And that is it for today, guys. I wanted to share this with you. On Wednesday, we have 2 extra special guests. So on Wednesday, we don't have just one, but we have 2. And I think you're going to be really pleased with our guests on Wednesday. We're going to give you some insight into how a business that does 7 figures a year operates. Like, what does the inside look like? What team members do you need? What are some of the roles of a team? So we're going to have some of our team members that come in. I actually reached out to them this morning and I kind of surprised them. I'm like, hey, I need you to come in on Wednesday, be a special guest on the Monday morning meetup. We're going to talk about how we operate internally. So these are folks that you probably, unless you're in maybe like micro office, you've never heard of or you've never heard from before, right? So how many people would like to hear from some of our team members that work internally here? I think that'll be really cool, all right? So with that said, have a great day, great morning, great night. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Show up early because we're going to jump right into it. Have a good one. See you. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you go in, you subscribe, make sure you comment, let us know what this episode did for you. And go into the Facebook group, guys. If you're part of a Facebook group, go into the Facebook group, let us know what your biggest takeaway was as well. And if you have not worked on suspending a belief from Friday's homework, you still have time, right? This whole entire week. What's one thing that you can go in and suspend your belief on? What's a distraction that you're going to get rid of? Like for me, myself, I said this year, one of I pretty much got rid of almost all of the distractions, but I said one of the distractions that I'm going to get rid of is, again, watching less television, right? So watching even less television, even though I don't watch much. I kind of watch games when my son is around because he really loves football. So for us, that's a bonding message more than anything, right? But anything else outside of that, and I like Law and Order. So that's my show, Law and Order. Who else? Is anyone else a Law and Order fan here? All right. So those are my vices right there. But for that, I'm going to cut down on those a bit. And that's it. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you on Wednesday.